In a previous video, I described how to use the record insertion wizard to create a data entry form that would collect information from the user and add it to the MySQL database. But I showed that there's a challenge with working with dates. That's because the code that's created by Dreamweaver doesn't do an adequate job of formatting dates as they're expected by MySQL. I'm working in the file insertfromwizard2.php in the root folder of the current site. Here's the problem code. It starts with a case statement, and it's within a function named getSQLValueString. The case statement for dates assumes that the user has typed in a value in a format that's acceptable to MySQL. Clearly, that isn't always the case. So I'm going to replace this string with a little bit more complex PHP code that uses the ZendDate class that I've demonstrated in previous videos. I'll go to the top of the file and add a require once command to incorporate the ZendDate class into my page. I'll add a PHP code block, and then the require once command, and then the ZendDate.php file. Make sure you complete the PHP code block at this point. Then go down to the offending code. Here's the line of code I need to replace. I'm going to select and delete it, and then I'll replace it with a complete if-else statement. I'll start by creating the entire conditional logic with if and a pair of parentheses and a pair of braces, and then an else and another pair of braces. Then I'll go back to the parentheses after the if and add the condition I'm examining. I'm asking the question, did the user type in a value at all? I'll enter $the value, and then the equality operator, double equals, and then quote, meaning blank string. Dreamweaver's syntax checking now shows me that there are no syntax errors. I now have a complete conditional block. If the value that the user typed in is blank, I'm going to set it to a value of null, using a very simple assignment statement of the value equals, and then the word null in uppercase. In the else clause, I'm going to assume that the user typed in a value formatted as a date in the format month/day/year, and eventually I'll add validation rules into my data entry form that ensures the value is typed in this format. I'll take the value the user typed in and turn it into an instance of the ZendDate class. I'll create a variable called ZendDate, and I'll create it from a new instance of the ZendDate class, and the first value that I'll pass in is the value that the user typed in the form, the value. The second part is the format that I'm expecting. I'll type that in as a literal string, using quote, an uppercase M for the month, then a slash, then a lowercase e for the date as a number, then a slash, and then 4 y's for the year. I now have an instance of the ZendDate class representing the value the user typed in, and I can format it any way I want. I'll create a new line of code, and I'll replace the variable the value using a single quote, a formatted date, and another single quote. I'll start with a single quote wrapped in double quotes, then a period indicating that I'm going to concatenate or append another value. Then I'll call the ZendDate object to string method. I'll pass in a formatting string indicating the formatting that's expected by MySQL. In double quotes, it'll look like this: YYYY for a 4-digit year, then a dash, then MM in uppercase, then a dash, then DD in lowercase for the day. And finally, I'll concatenate another single quote at the end. So now I have a formatted date string wrapped in single quotes. That's the extent of the changes to my data entry form's code. I'll save my changes and then run the form in the browser. I'll type in some values. The first name will be Mikey, then Jones. Make sure that you type in a valid date of birth in the common format used in the United States. I'll type in a value of 5/12/1963. Type in any email address, and then type in any other values you like in the rest of the form. Because of certain restrictions in the database structure, you must type in values into all of these form controls. Once you've typed in all of the values, click Insert Record. You should go directly to the Explorer List page and see that this time the date was entered correctly. Here's my new record, and the date is displayed formatted by the ZendDate class. So that's a look at how to customize your data entry forms after Dreamweaver has generated the code. This strategy can be used both for code that's generated by the record insertion wizard and for code that's added to existing forms, which I'll show you how to build in another video.